Alright everyone, the other day it was announced, happy times, huzzah and hallelujah, Nick Sandmann effectively winning his case against CNN. Now I think this was separate from the main lawsuit, which involves the Covington kids at large. This is Nick Sandmann, who was like uniquely and singularly targeted and doxxed and harassed and abused and defamed by half the legacy media. CNN is one of dozens of groups that he's suing. They've decided to settle the case for an undisclosed amount. I'm assuming that there's probably a non-disclosure agreement, so we're probably never going to know the total. I would imagine it's in the high six-figure range. I can't imagine it's anywhere near the 200 and some odd million he was suing for. I have a feeling it's a small fraction of that. But here, let's think about what a settlement means in the context of CNN versus these other groups in regards to just Sandmann's lawsuit. If Nicholas Sandmann is getting a settlement from CNN is considerably more powerful and well-known than most of the other groups being sued by Sandmann and the Covington kids. If CNN figured it was better to just settle, even if it's a minor settlement compared to the overall amount asked, which I guarantee it's nowhere near the total that he was asking for. It could be $1 million, maybe a couple million, but it's not 200 some odd million. If they thought it was a good idea to settle out of court to make the case disappear and to keep it under wraps, sort of the proceedings, that's blood in the water for Sandmann and for the Covington kids. The expectation now is that probably going forward you're going to see more settlements. Sandmann's going to make out like a fucking bandit. The Covington kids are not going to have to worry about their college fees. That's good. Because what effectively happened is this. Here's what happened during that case. Instantaneous transfer. 15 seconds after the events happened, it started hitting the news. Virtually all of the legacy media's coverage of the event went something like this. Group of evil Nazis intimidate peaceful Native American marchers, shout Trump slogans, and talk about the wall. But that's literally not what happened. The problem with the case, with the defense, is that CNN and BuzzFeed and Huffington Post and all these other groups that were doing the defaming, and a few of them, to their credit, retracted or apologized or put a caveat in their story and said, well, things are still unfolding the day of. The reason they're being sued is that a lot of them didn't. And I believe CNN was one of them. Oh, we stick by our reporting. This is what happened. Look at this smug, smirking, evil Nazi, Nick Sandmann. Here's the problem. We had multiple camera angles of the whole event. They chose a selectively edited version of it, largely for clarity of picture, I think, which is itself innocent, but it lacks the context, in which it looks like the Covington kids could be culpable for mocking people. But the larger scenario that unfolded started with the black Israelis mocking some Native Americans. The Covington kids didn't like it. They asked the people that were with them if they could sing their songs from school, I guess, their sports team songs, in order to drown out the racism of the black Israelis. The Native American marchers came up, and at first it was all fine and well and good, but then it became a little creepy because they got all up in Nick Sandmann's face, and people didn't know what was going on. And then some words were exchanged, and the only racist term that I heard anywhere on any of the recordings, because I looked at them all, because I was trying to analyze things properly. You see, I took that extra 10 minutes to actually know what the fuck I was talking about, something CNN couldn't be bothered to do, which is why they just had to settle with Nick Sandmann. I looked at it. The only thing there that could be construed as racist was when one of the Native Americans present said something to the effect of "go back to Europe." That's the only time that anything ethnocentric or racist or whatever, bigoted, was possibly said. The Sandmann literally didn't even say anything. He just stood there. It was funny how many people got triggered and said it was a symbol of white privilege. That Sandmann literally just stood there with stony-faced while somebody was less than a foot away from them drumming in their face and chanting in another language. He was being approached. The Covington kids were up on the steps. Other people approached them. But if you listened to CNN's initial reporting, the Covington kids, this is the allegation CNN made, the Covington kids approached the Native American marchers to mock them and started doing a tribal chant to mock their Native American chants. But that's objectively wrong. We've got recording that shows that. Whoops. By the way, did I not predict that there'd probably be settlements involved? I think as soon as the lawsuits began. The idea that they would all go to trial and stuff, and that Sandmann was going to make hundreds of millions off these groups, that was never going to happen. But getting a settlement is great. You get one settlement, you can get others, and some of them hopefully won't come with an NDA, so we'll be able to know like sort of what totals they are. How much are the Covington kids going to take these groups to the cleaners for defaming them? How many college funds are they going to be able to fund with all of that sweet cash? I hope it's a lot. I hope it was a 7-figure settlement. I hope it was more than $1 million. He deserves it. He was slapped on the front page of every goddamn legacy media fucking rag tabloid outlet in the world practically and called a Nazi by most of them. Oh, the symbol of white supremacy, Nick Sandmann, who they doxed. He wasn't even 18 at the time they're doxing the kid. They're calling up his fucking house, threatening him, trying to get his parents fired and stuff. They did this to other Covington kids. They doxed them all. I mean, come on. They're high schoolers. This isn't a group of people. This isn't adults doing something wrong. This is kids doing literally the opposite of something wrong. I remember briefly the day after, they tried to claim that they wore blackface at their sports team games. And then, of course, it was just blackout day, which is like everyone dresses up in a certain color, so it could be one day it's black, one day it's green or something. And they were trying to say that they were wearing blackface and shit. Again, objectively false reporting that a single half an hour of your day as a journo, a so-called journalist, you're like, oh, if you insult the press, you hate the First Amendment. We've got so much decorum. We're so solemn. We're such great people. Love the press. Oh, celebrate Free Press Day. If you want to be celebrated as a member of the free press, First Amendment and cherry pie and grandma's rocking chair and the Star-Spangled Banner, why don't you do a little bit of fact-checking? It would have taken less than a half an hour for them to understand there was no blackface at their sports games, that Sandmann didn't do anything wrong, the Covington kids didn't mock anyone, they didn't approach anyone. They were standing there. They did nothing. Literally nothing wrong. And yet he had to be I mean, you might as well put him on the face of Time magazine with Photoshop him as Adolf Hitler or something. Would have been more sensible than some of the reporting we literally actually saw. Thank goodness there was a settlement. Hopefully there's a bunch more. I hope they fucking take these groups to the cleaners. They should go after Vice too. Vice UK actually is hemorrhaging money right now. So Vice Media is fucked, it seems. I think some of these groups are still looking for buyers. Like, what is that one? It's not Daily Mail. I can't remember which one it is that right now is still searching around for someone to bail them out. Like, you remember when the Blaze, like, I think wanted Ben Shapiro to buy them, and then they ended up with some other sort of deal or merger or something, and managed to make ends meet. Poor Glenn Beck. These poor people, I mean, the legacy media just can't catch a break, mainly because people, it's not interesting anymore. Even the defamation, the only reason that the defamation of Sandmann and the Covington kids was interesting was because you could take part in the fallout on Twitter. Basically, just the audience participation of being able to yell at the pundits for being so objectively wrong. And we told them they were wrong. I told them that they were wrong. I went right onto their pages. It's like, you know, the whole world is telling you, here's another camera angle disproving what you're saying, and you're pretending even sometimes a day later. You're not going to retract, you're not going to apologize, you're still standing by your reporting. You have been proven objectively wrong. That was the only fun part about it, because you could call them emotionally crippled, because you could call them intellectually bereft, because you could point out the fact that they were nothing more than a pile of cheap fucking tabloid swill propaganda. That's about all. Peace out.